Hi guys, and welcome to Cooking the Books with Heather. Today we're going to be working again from Deep Run Roots, Vivian Howard's cookbook, and we're going to be making Day at the Beach pork picnic with peach and melon salsa. So this is a relatively hands-off recipe, at least with the pork part. It just cooks low and slow in the oven for a really long time. So it's pretty early in the morning and we're getting started. And the first thing we have to do is make a rub to flavor our pork roast. And all this is an equal combination of salt, brown sugar, and cumin. So I'm going to mix this up in the bowl here. And then we're going to rub it all over our pork roast. So we've mixed up just the cumin and the brown sugar and the salt, and we have our rub and we have our pork roast. She says a 5 to 6 pound either pork picnic or pork butt. What I have here is called a pork butt. This is slightly less than 5 pounds. The good part here is you really can't mess up this cut of meat. You cook it low and slow and it will be delicious no matter what, even the crock pot. So I'm not a huge fan of crock pot cooking. But even in the crock pot, this will taste delicious. So it's not what we're doing today, but just wanted to let you guys know. You're not going to mess this up if you use a slightly smaller roast. We're going to use all of this rub, so it's perfectly fine that I'm putting my pork covered hands in this bowl, because we're going to just rub all of it in here. Just make sure we get it all covered. I'm using my sheet pan that I ruined by putting it in the dishwasher. So this kind of sheet pan you shouldn't put in the dishwasher, but I did. So I just use that for usually raw meat when we're seasoning it or things like that, when we're not really cooking on it, but it'll get dirty and it's sort of my bad pan. All right. I think that's about as good as I'm going to get as far as coverage on this, but it's taken most of it, so that's awesome. And then I'm going to wash my hands and I'm going to use my tongs to put this into a Dutch oven, which I have ready behind me, and it's going to go into the oven at 300 degrees for 4 hours. So that's a lot of time. 4 hours to do whatever you want. She says her family, when they make this when they go to the beach, and it's a good thing that you can pop in the oven and then spend the day on the beach and come back and finish it up. So you wash my hands, be right back. Okay, so I've washed my hands and now we're gonna put this heavy piece of meat into our Dutch oven, fat side or skin side up. There we go. All right, so we're gonna put the lid on this and slide it in the oven, like I said, for 4 hours. My pork roast has been in the oven for 4 hours now, and it needs to be in there for another hour, but we also need to take the lid off. So we're gonna pull it out of the oven real quick. It's hot. I'm going to turn up my oven to 400 degrees, because now we're gonna start crisping it up. So it looks pretty good. There's a lot of juices collected in the bottom. A lot of the fat has rendered down. But now we're gonna put this in the oven at 400 degrees and leave it for an hour. And that's it for now. So now that we've turned up the heat on our pork in the oven, I'm gonna go ahead and start peeling my peaches and getting the peach and melon salsa, I think she calls it. Yeah, peach and melon salsa ready. There's not a method in the book for peeling the peaches. You can do it however you want, but this is how I always peel peaches, almost always. My peaches have just been in the refrigerator, so they're pretty cold, so I don't do an ice bath afterwards. If they're warm and you want to stop the cooking, that's what you do. Mine tend to stay pretty cold in the quick boiling water. So we're going to basically blanch them. So I'm going to cut a small X in the bottom, and that will give the skin sort of a place to start peeling from. And then just about 30 seconds per peach in here. If they're ripe, if they're really ripe, it doesn't take very long. If they're less ripe, you might just need to use a knife. But you want ripe ones for this. I've got an extra peach compared to what she says to put in here, simply because some of mine had been in the refrigerator for a little while. Once they get ripe, I put them in the refrigerator and they'll last for a while, but just in case, one was starting to look a little potentially bruised and iffy, so if there's some part of it that I can't use, I'll have enough. So I'm going to continue doing this, and after that we will peel them and cut them up. Another thing is, if you want to cut peaches up and make it easy on yourself, you probably want to try to buy Freestone peaches. That just means that the flesh doesn't cling to the pit, and these should be. I got them from our produce box, so I'm just not sure. But you can see here, the peel has started coming off of the peach here, and so I'm just going to take it and put it on this paper towel and continue with the rest of them. Okay, we've blanched the peaches, and they're all ready to peel, and you can see that the peel comes off pretty easily. And they're super cool. I just finished blanching the last ones, and this is the first one, and it's plenty cool enough to handle. And I forgot to bring my bowl over when I'm done, so let me go ahead and get that before I get too messy. All right. I just have a bowl to put my peaches in when they're done. So this one might have a few bad spots, but I like to cut it opposite of the way the sort of ridge runs. Oh, this one's gonna be real. Excuse the beep, that's my dishwasher. This one's really soft, so we might save that one for another time. See how that goes. See how the rest go. That soft means it might be a bit overripe, and it certainly is not going to be really pretty in our salsa, so we'll see if we need it. But I'm going to keep, let me get this one peeled and show you how I cut it up, and then we'll just keep doing that with the rest of them, and then we'll come back and put our salsa together. So you see the little ridge in the peach. I like to cut it the other way, because otherwise you can sometimes separate the seed in the middle, and that's annoying. And then, oh yeah, this is much better. Pull it apart, and the seed should come out. There we go. The pit comes out pretty easily. There we go. And then I'm supposed to cut this to make sure about a 1/2 inch dice. So that's pretty small. And I'm not going to bother slicing it sort of on the in half that way, just because, I mean, they'll be a little tall, not exactly 1/2 inch dice, but I think that'll be perfect. It'll be just fine. My cutting board might look a tiny bit dirty, but been cutting up all the other stuff that goes in this salsa on it, so it doesn't really matter. Anything that is on it will be ingredients that are going with it anyway. And now I'm just gonna do this with all of the rest of my peaches, and I'm glad that I had an extra because that one was a little soft. I've got all of my ingredients cut up for the peach and melon salsa except for some chipotle in adobo. I'm wearing the gloves because I do not deal well with spice later. It sticks to your hands, and yeah, I want to be able to touch my nose without dying. So I only need about a tablespoon, and it needs to be sliced up. So I'm going to pick like a couple of these peppers. I think that'll probably be about a tablespoon. A little bit of the salt, sauce, and stuff with it. There we go. So we're gonna slice this up. It's all gonna be messy, so I'm not really worried about everything. This is the very last thing. Since I know it's gonna be messy, it's the very last thing that I have to cut up for this. And so just sort of there we go. That's pretty good. Chopped up nice and fine. And I'm going to take one of my gloves off. And I'm going to measure with one side of this. Luckily, this is a two-sided measure. So I'm going to measure my 1 tablespoon, see how close we got with this side. It's about a tablespoon. Not bad. And we're going to mix all this stuff together. Now, move this out of the way and take my other glove off. It's a little spicy. Okay. So we're gonna mix everything else together. Start with our herbs. We have some cilantro, and whatever is left over is going into another dish that I have. We have some mint, we have, we're gonna use all of this, it's lime zest. We have some sliced, thinly sliced green onions. I think this is a bit much, so I'm going to just use that much. And then we have some lime juice. Let me see how much I need. Okay, yes. And then we're gonna add our salt. We're gonna add the watermelon. I've already chopped this up. It's also 1/2-inch dice. You've already seen me wrestle with a watermelon before, so I didn't have anything to add there. And mix this up, and it is complete. She says that you can make this the night before if you want, but she likes to do it right before she serves it. So I'm gonna try and get that chipotle stuff mixed in pretty well. And we're gonna eat in about 45 minutes or so. So this will be fine. I think it looks delicious. It's very pretty, lots of herbs. All right. And this is all we have to do until the pork comes out in about 15 minutes or so. All right, we'll be back with you then. Just took this out of the oven. It's been at 400 degrees for about an hour. It's nice and brown. Got some black stuff on the bottom, but we're not using that, so that's just a problem for the cleanup crew. Next thing we'll show you it all plated up. So On this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather, we made Day at the Beach pork picnic with peach and melon salsa. Oh my goodness, this woman has long titles for some of her recipes. This is from Deep Run Roots, Vivian Howard's cookbook. And so we had some guests over and made this recipe. The pork was kind of a basic pulled pork recipe, cooked in the oven instead of, over the smoker, although obviously you could cook it over a smoker, but it turns out just as well in the oven. In the this cut does well in the crock pot, but you won't get the crispy brown bits in the crock pot that you do in the oven. So, the pork was delicious, pulled nicely. We used the leftovers for something else later in the week. I think we made Cuban sandwiches using the leftover pulled pork. The peach and melon salsa was good. It was a little bit spicy for my children. Just 1 tablespoon of chipotle in adobo along with probably 4 cups of fruit still made it slightly too spicy for them, but it was good. I don't think I would make it exactly that way again, just because it was a little bit too spicy for my kids, but I might, lower the spice level, maybe add, I don't know, something else, maybe a fresher chili, although we would like it and they would still probably find it too spicy, but it was a good mixture, peaches and watermelon and a little bit of scallion and limes and mint and cilantro. It's a good mixture. It was good with the pork. Everybody enjoyed it, like I said, except for the children because of the spice level. And as far as ease, it was pretty easy. Cutting up peaches is never fun. Cutting up watermelon is never fun, but those are things you figure out how to do in a way that doesn't annoy you, and then it's okay. It did not require any special equipment, a Dutch oven, cutting board, a knife, that's about it. So that's good. And in fact, she says that she usually makes it when she's at the beach. So that makes sense because you don't always have all your special equipment if you're renting a house at the beach, right? So I would say this is pretty easy. Time consuming because the pork does take a long time to cook, but very easy. So I hope you'll make this recipe. Tell me what you think. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe, and we'll be back next week with another recipe. Thanks.